Good morning, and thank you for joining us for our Mississauga update. I first want to wish all of those celebrating Vaisakhi a happy and memorable celebration. Vaisakhi Diyan Luk Luk Vidanya. Today I am joined by Lyndon King, the chair of the Black Caucus, an advisory group of the Black community leaders who provide advice to my office on issues pertaining to the Black community. But first, as we head into the long weekend, filled with Vaisakhi, Easter, Ramadan, and Passover celebrations, I would be remiss if I didn't ask residents that in the midst of this sixth wave to please be mindful when gathering with family and friends. Our wastewater levels in Peel continue to rise, but Dr. Lowe has told me that this has been both gradual and expected, and that our situation is manageable at this time. I know Peel Public Health continues to work closely with Ontario Health and other community partners to ensure those most vulnerable are given the tools that they need to stay safe, which is why I'm encouraging the province to consider prioritizing the hardest hit neighborhoods, including those here in the region of Peel, as they make antiviral drugs available to the public. My take-home message this long weekend is that if you are feeling unwell, please stay home. I know rapid tests aren't perfect, but if you have symptoms, please take advantage of the free tests that are being provided by the province. It is important to remember that one negative test doesn't rule out COVID. If you have symptoms, repeat the test 24 to 48 hours later. If you receive 2 negative tests in a row, 24 to 48 hours apart, it is less likely that you have COVID, but you should still self-isolate until your symptoms have improved for at least a day. While we have excellent vaccination rates here in Peel, we can't forget about all the young children under 5 in our daycares and schools who can't get vaccinated or wear a mask, and of course, those who are immunocompromised. In my travels across the city, I'm still seeing a lot of people masking in high-traffic areas like malls and grocery stores, and I think this is a good thing. We heard from Ontario's Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Kieran Moore, earlier this week that this wave is being driven by the BA2 variant and is unlikely to subside until the end of May, and that he now recommends masking in indoor public spaces whenever possible. I ask that if you haven't been vaccinated or boosted, please make this a priority. If you do fall ill, use the provincial screening tool to determine if you are at a higher risk and eligible for free antiviral medications. Once again, I encourage residents to be kind, think of others, and respect each other's decisions. We will continue to move forward and get through this together. I'm now going to shift gears and talk about an incredibly important report that Council received yesterday called First Steps, a community-driven report on making Mississauga more equitable for Black communities. This landmark report provides the city with a set of solid recommendations informed and led entirely by Black community members that will help guide us on how to build a more inclusive and equitable city and ensure city programs and services are more responsive to the needs of Black community members. I'm so proud of the work that went into the report over the past year, and I want to thank the over 900 community members, experts, and staff who took part in this very important process, over 15 hours of consultations. I want to give a special thank you to Claudia McCoy, who held the pen to the report, and the Black Caucus Advisory Group, who provided significant input and put in countless hours of hard work. The report recommends that the city implement a variety of new programs, services, and initiatives, or adapt current ones to respond to the needs of the Black communities including those that create enhanced political inclusion and engagement, promote better health and well-being, and foster economic empowerment. And as much as I am proud of this report, I'm equally as proud of the process to get us to this point. These consultations represented the first time the city dedicated time and resources to have a meaningful dialogue on the steps we need to take and to ensure that Black community members have had more say in the decision-making process here in the city of Mississauga. And I truly couldn't be prouder of how we all came together to find solutions. And while some of these recommendations will be faster to implement than others, what's important now is that we work to further empower Black community members to have a real say at the City of Mississauga. And now it is my honor to invite Lyndon King, the chair of the Black Caucus, to speak more about his feelings on the importance of the report and the journey we took to get here and where we go from here. Lyndon, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, thank you and good morning, Madam Mayor. As you know, these sessions were a historic first for Mississauga, and Mississauga is home to a significant number of Black residents, and I commend the city and its councilors for having these difficult but important conversations, and also its willingness to listen and understand the everyday barriers of our communities that we face. Through our public consultations and co-design sessions, we brought together leaders from all areas of our community, subject matter experts, and city staffs to help identify particular solutions. Some of these conversations were difficult, but at points where it got very heated as well. But you know, these conversations were necessary. And I just want to thank all the residents who took part in the consultations, as well as Mayor Crombie, council, city staff, and experts, and also the leaders that created a safe space for Black community members to share their lived experience and ideas on how to create a more equitable and inclusive city. I just want to say that the report reflects these conversations. It spoke, the community had an opportunity to speak, and it created, and it's, and it speaks to our vision, our needs, and our hopes. I was happy that our councilors at yesterday's meeting demonstrated their continued commitment towards greater equity and inclusion. The report provides guidance on how the city can improve policies, adapt programs and services to ensure that our community is given the political decision-making that it needs. As the chair of the Black Caucus, I just want to thank other colleagues for their advice and guidance over the past year. We are not done, and now the work begins. The Black Caucus looks forward to collaborating with our city colleagues in moving these recommendations forward. Our first order of business is to basically create a Black Caucus Alliance. The Alliance is going to hold the city accountable with regards to the commitments to making real changes. As we begin our first steps in the process, along with my colleagues, I continue to reinforce our mantra, nothing about us without us. Thank you.
Thank you, Lyndon. And I again want to thank you for your leadership on this very important issue. I really do look forward to seeing the development of the new Black Alliance and supporting their work to implement change. Because the truth is, we are committed to change here at the City of Mississauga and committed to doing better. And now I'd like to also wish all of my residents who are celebrating this weekend a blessed and joyous Easter, those celebrating Passover, Hag Sameach, and of Ramadan Kareem, Ramadan Mubarak for those in Ramadan. And again, happy Vaisakhi, Vaisakhi Dion, Luk Luk Vidanya. And now, along with Lyndon King, we are happy to take questions from the media.
Mayor Crombie, your first question comes from Steve Cornwell at the Mississauga News. Go ahead, Steve.
Mayor Crombie, how are you?
Very well, thank you, Steve.
Just a question about, you were talking about the antiviral COVID pills and potentially asking for Peel and Mississauga to be prioritized in kind of delivery of them. Is your sense now that Peel or Mississauga is kind of getting a lesser share of what it should be getting of the antiviral COVID pills?
No, that's not exactly what I was saying, actually, Steve. So right now we know that supply is very limited to certain groups, so vulnerable seniors, elderly, those who are immunocompromised. But as we roll out the antiviral PAX medication, neighborhoods should be prioritized that have either a lower vaccination rates or have had a lower uptake. So prioritize those communities that are more vulnerable. And certainly we have seen here in the region of Peel and in Mississauga that our vaccination rates are very high, some among the highest in the province. So that I'm very proud of. And certainly wastewater indicators are starting to show that things are beginning to plateau. So that gives me great comfort. But as these antivirals become available, we want to ensure that they are prioritized for the people that need them. So certainly the elderly, the immunocompromised, and in those neighborhoods where we have seen a lower uptake for whatever reason.
Thank you. And a question about the Black Caucus and the report from yesterday, perhaps for Lyndon King as well, if you can chime in here. But one of the recommendations is obviously to create this group as an arm-length organization from the city. I'm just curious in terms of the accountability piece, like how, I guess for you first, Mayor Crombie, how do you see kind of this organization operating independently from the city, and like how much room do you foresee this organization having? And the same question to Lyndon King as well.
I'll kick it off, and then I'd like Lyndon to speak to that as well, because certainly it was a governance issue, whether they become a not-for-profit organization, whether they become an arm of the city, like our Economic Development Advisory Committee. Are they an advisory committee? And so the group settled on this model of governance, and this was certainly at their initiative. And I think that while they are somewhat arm's length, the commitment is that they're going to work very closely with myself, with council, and our city staff to implement the recommendations. So Lyndon, why don't I ask you to explain why this particular governance model was chosen?
Right. Well, thank you for that question. And the reason we looked at this particular model, there's a number of things within the recommendations that we looked at. And some could possibly, and again, this is all new to the city of Mississauga, some are going to be able to be done quickly and we can work with the city. Some would be looked at as an advocate type of scenarios as well. So there's different types of models that we are going to probably have to incorporate with regards to some of these recommendations. So these are different models that we were looking at. That's the reason why we kind of landed on this particular model of a not-for-profit organization that's going to be arm's length of the city, because we felt that most of the recommendations in there can be dealt with in that perspective.
Next question, please.
Your next question comes from Natasha O'Neill at The Pointer. Go ahead, Natasha.
Mayor Crombie.
Welcome.
I saw you last week at the Region's Planning and Growth Committee meeting, listening in on the Municipal Comprehensive Review. And today, as you know, it is going to Regional Council, and I'm just kind of wondering what you're hoping to get out of today's discussion.
Well, as you know, many hours of work have gone into this, and we've certainly received, I believe, over 700 items of correspondence, plus the numerous deputations that occurred last week. So we'll have a fulsome discussion beginning in about 20 minutes with Peel Regional Council on this new ROPA for the region of Peel, our plan going forward, if you will. And so I'm very excited with the amount of input that the residents and stakeholder groups have had. And certainly there are some items still to be worked out, both in the municipality of Caledon, the city of Brampton have a few issues. So it'll be interesting to see if we pass that today or if we'll continue with further consultations. But it's a very exciting time for the region of Peel as we discuss our growth.
And are you thinking that you're going to be on, there's a little bit of a side war, you know, and I have to ask, are you going to make your decision? Have you already made a decision, or are you waiting to hear the discussion?
So there is no side war. We work as a team, and we, usually vote unanimously. Certainly, the City of Mississauga, we do. But from my understanding, and in discussions with some of the councillors in Brampton, they may need some time to do a bit more consultation, and certainly in the municipality of Caledon. So whether this will be delayed a little bit or passed today, well, that will be, we will see that in the discussions that we are about to have.
Your next question comes from Declan Finnegan at Mississauga. Go ahead, Declan.
Morning, Mayor Crombie. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for joining us.
Good. Just earlier this week, the digging of the tunnel officially began at the Eglinton Crosstown West Extension. I know one of the important transit projects in the city. How important is it, Mayor Crombie, that route be extended to Pearson Airport, as that possibility does exist?
I think that's absolutely vital, that the crosstown tunnel, be extended right to the airport. First of all, I was delighted to be present along with the Premier, Minister Alghabra, Minister Mulrooney, and many other elected officials as Mayor Tory gleefully announced the burrowing of the crosstown tunnel. And this is a very important infrastructure for us here in Mississauga because, of course, it will connect with our transitway, the BRT system that is already operating, I'll call it parallel to the 403. So that is very important infrastructure as the two will connect so people can move seamlessly, not only across Mississauga, but right across the greater Toronto area. And then, of course, to see this new infrastructure pass through Mississauga and head up to the airport would be vital. We need more links to the airport. We know that every major city right across the world has important infrastructure links, transit, connecting passengers and employees as well. Let's not forget the 40,000 employees that work at the airport that need to get to their jobs in the airport area. So this will be very vital for an improvement for them to get to work, as well as people traveling, whether they use the Up Express from downtown the city of Toronto, or they can access the airport through our BRT connecting to the crosstown that will lead us to the airport.
Follow-up, Declan?
Yes, please. Thank you. I guess maybe generally, Mayor Crombie, if you could talk about the, I guess for lack of a better word, struggle between development in farmland in Caledon and Brampton. On the one hand, given the population growth and forecasts, housing needs to be built, which will infringe on farmland. On the other hand, your stance against Highway 413, for example, because it will it will destroy, the environment and and take away much of the farmland. How do you maybe talk about that balance? How you,
We have always said here in the city of Mississauga that we believe any investments that the government should make should be in public transit to improve public transit. And certainly the burrowing and the completion of the crosstown is one example. Certainly all-day two-way GO train service on the Milton line is another example. Building the loop in the downtown of Mississauga is another vital example. Putting a highway through 52 acres of pristine wetlands, sensitive farmland, where there isn't population being allocated till past 2050, to me, it is not a good use of resources. This is farmland and wetland and area that should be protected. I don't see the need for it, and we also know that it encourages the development of sprawl, which we know is a very ineffective, very inefficient way to build. We're looking at increasing affordability in our supply of housing. I know the Premier is very focused on delivering supply to the market, but here in Mississauga, we're concerned about affordability and that the appropriate product be available to families. So we have evidence here in Mississauga that we have 20,000 units where development community can pull their permits at any time, and an additional 40,000 units that are as of right. So supply isn't the issue, affordability is the issue, and we need to create more affordable housing that is accessible for families. And that's really the key, building affordable housing and investing in public transit. Those are the priorities of Mississauga City Council.
Your final question for the day comes from Khaled at My Second Home TV. Go ahead, Khaled.
Mayor, yesterday the councillor took new fees for non-compliance of inspection. How do you think?
You cut out after new fees for non-compliance. So, Khaled, let me just respond to, our council has deep concern over property standards. There are a few very bad actors who ignore property standards, and it does create a lot of staff time and resources to go out and continually monitor whether the situation has improved in those specific sites. You saw that Councillor Parrish showed examples up in Brandon Gate, up in the Moulton area. Councillor Dasco spoke to a few specific examples. So this is very important, but this is also utilizes staff time and resources to monitor whether the situations are improving. So yes, there will be a fee for a reinspection, but that's only fair. If you get a warning that your property is not meeting property standards here in Mississauga, if they go back and see that heck, no changes have been made, you haven't addressed these issues, and of course there will be a reinspection fee. That's only fair. It takes time and resources away for our staff.
Khaled, are you still there?
Hello?
Khaled, I can hear you, yes?
Can you hear me?
Well, yes, and I hope you heard my response. You can have a follow-up.
Yes, I did. Sorry, I'm driving. Maybe there is no network in the area. My follow-up for Mr. King. Mr. King, why is it important for every community to have its own alliance and caucus?
Lyndon, over to you.
Yes, thank you for that question. That is a very good question. And the reason that we need advocates, we need a voice for our community to speak. The Black community has gone through a lot of oppression for numerous years, and I'm glad that the city had recognized that, and they actually formed the passing of the bill to form the Black Caucus. I think this consultations and this group was very important in order to meeting the needs of our community. There's a number of issues that need to be addressed, and I have full confidence in the city that they will be listening and supporting our community as we move forward to getting these recommendations implemented. So it's definitely a need in regards to helping our community. So thank you for that question.
That concludes the questions for today, Mayor Crombie.
Thank you for joining us today.